She never thought you'd wake up. She thought you'd keep chasing, keep folding, keep swallowing the disrespect like it was love. She believed you'd keep showing up, even when she disappeared. That you'd fight to be enough while she fed off your silence, your confusion, your doubt. But something snapped. And now you're here. Not bitter, not broken, just done. This video isn't for the man still waiting for closure. It's for the man who's ready to rebuild without permission, who's done begging to be understood, who's ready to level up quietly, permanently. Because when a man walks out of the fog of emotional chaos, he doesn't get revenge. He gets results. Let's talk about what happens when you choose peace over validation, direction over dysfunction, and power over pain. That if you've ever been discarded like a backup plan, this moment is yours. Comment below, I choose clarity. Because by the end of this video, you won't just feel better, you'll be unreachable. Number 1. She didn't expect your silence to be strength. She counted on your reactions, the late-night paragraphs, the emotional breakdowns, the desperate need to be heard. She thrived on the chaos she created because it kept her in control. She knew exactly when to go cold, when to breadcrumb, when to say just enough to keep you hooked. Your pain was her proof. Your anger was her validation. And every time you responded, even if it was with rage or confusion, she felt powerful. But not anymore. Now, you're silent. Not because you gave up, but because you woke up. You finally understood that your peace isn't found in convincing someone to care. It's found in walking away from people who weaponize your emotions. You're not engaging. You're not explaining. You're not playing a role in her drama anymore. You're focused on something bigger. You're not pretending to move on. You've actually moved forward. That glow she stalks on your feed, it's not a filter. It's the result of discipline, of healing, of self-respect. She expected you to spiral. You built structure. She thought you'd chase. You chose stillness. And now, she doesn't know how to handle the version of you that no longer reacts. The version of you that no longer needs her in order to feel complete. She looks for signs that you're faking it, but all she sees is a man who no longer flinches. Because silence, when it comes from strength, is the loudest thing she'll ever hear. Number 2. You stopped playing a game that never had rules. You used to sit up at night trying to decode her patterns. The warm texts that turned cold by morning. The promises that sounded sweet but never showed up in reality. The moments she'd pull you close just to push you away. You twisted yourself into knots trying to make sense of what never made sense because deep down, you believed love meant effort. You thought if you just showed her enough loyalty, she'd finally give you consistency. But now, you've stopped trying to understand a language designed to confuse. You're no longer a student of her chaos. You've graduated into clarity. You realized her affection wasn't love, it was leverage. A tool to keep you tethered. Her care came in flashes, just long enough to reset your hope, just deep enough to keep you chasing. But once you stopped reacting, once you stopped feeding the dysfunction with your attention, the game lost its power. Her control didn't die in a confrontation. It died in your silence. Now, she could post 1,000 cryptic stories, send a memory-laced message, or pretend she's thriving, and you wouldn't blink. Not out of spite, but because she no longer exists in your emotional world. You've shifted from reacting to observing, from guessing to knowing, from needing answers to being your own. And that scares her, because the man who once needed her validation now walks in truth she can't disrupt. And that truth, it's something she never prepared for. Number 3, she can't reach the man who built himself without her. You didn't just survive the heartbreak. You transformed through it. You used the pain as fuel, not a crutch. While she expected you to sit in the rubble, hoping she'd return, you got up earlier than ever. You hit the gym not to look good for someone else, but to build a body that reflected your discipline. You stopped wasting days in confusion and started investing hours into clarity. You quit negotiating with your own greatness. You stopped shrinking yourself to fit into places you had already outgrown. You stopped reaching out to people who made you feel like a burden. You started reaching inward, into purpose, into direction, into a version of yourself that doesn't flinch when things get quiet. You filled your days with routine, your nights with books, your mind with vision. And slowly, everything changed. Your focus got sharper. Your moves got quieter. Your power became internal, not something to prove, but something to protect. Now she watches from a distance, waiting for signs that it's all performative, that the glow is temporary, that the strength is for show. But what she doesn't understand is this isn't a comeback. This is the new baseline. You're not pretending. You're centered. And that realization cuts deep. Because you didn't try to replace her with distractions or attention. You replaced her with goals, with structure, with ambition. You didn't move on to impress. You moved on to become. And what you've become, she never saw it coming. Number 4, your detachment isn't a tactic. It's who you've become. You used to crave her approval like oxygen. Every compliment felt like a high. Every withdrawal felt like suffocation. You measured your worth by how close she stood to you, by how quickly she responded, by whether she smiled when you spoke. Her presence was your comfort. Her silence, your torment. But pain changed that. Not instantly, gradually, relentlessly. Pain stripped away the illusion that love should hurt. And in the wreckage, you found something deeper than peace. You found self-respect. You sat in the silence. You let the ache stretch. You didn't numb it. You faced it. There were nights. You stared at your phone, tempted to send the just one more message. Mornings where nostalgia almost convinced you to go back, but you didn't. And that decision, repeated over time, rewired you. Your detachment isn't a defense mechanism. It's a discipline. You trained yourself to stop chasing what leaves you empty. You chose stillness over chaos, solitude over attention, purpose over pain. She assumed you were on pause. That you'd eventually crack under the silence. But while she waited for a relapse, you built a rhythm. She thought you'd come back. Instead, you came back to yourself. Now, you're not pulled by old patterns. You're pulled by what empowers you: growth, progress, real connection. And when she looks at you today, she doesn't see the man she left, because he's gone. What's standing in his place is someone unreachable, and that's not her loss. It's your evolution. Number 5, you don't speak your power anymore. You live it. There was a time when you thought clarity came through explanation. So you spilled your heart over and over, trying to make her understand why you stayed, why you kept giving, why you forgave the things that chipped away at your dignity. You broke yourself down into bite-sized pieces, hoping she'd finally see the full picture. But she never looked closely. She only heard what she wanted, twisted your truth, and ignored your needs. Back then, you thought silence meant defeat. Now, you understand its power. These days, you don't explain, you execute. You move with purpose, not apology. She wants a breakdown. She wants the version of you who begged to be understood. But that man doesn't live here anymore. She says, you've changed. And she's right. You have. But you're not about to hand her a playbook on how and why. Your energy is too valuable for someone who only shows up to read, not to understand. Now, your actions speak. Your boundaries speak. Your absence speaks. And what they say is this: you finally chose yourself, not to prove anything, not to spark regret, but because trying to explain your worth to someone committed to overlooking it was the most exhausting story you ever told. Now you're done telling it. She had access to your voice when it cried for connection. Now, all she hears is the quiet strength of a man who no longer needs to be heard, because he finally hears himself. Number 6, you found peace, not a replacement. She thought you'd turn your healing into a performance. Shirtless gym pics, rebound dates, loud captions meant to spark her curiosity or jealousy. She waited for the drama, the show, the attention-seeking proof that you were winning without her. But none of that came, because you didn't move forward to be seen. You moved forward to become. You weren't chasing closure. You were chasing clarity. You didn't fill the silence with flexes. You filled it with habits. You built a routine so solid, so intentional, that even your quiet days carry more weight than her loudest ones. Now your world is calm, clean, focused. You're not waking up thinking about her anymore, that you're waking up thinking about your future, about systems, purpose, discipline, about legacy, not lust. She scrolls and sees nothing. No subtle digs, no thirst traps, no breadcrumbs to follow. And that emptiness, that digital silence, it rattles her because it confirms what she feared most, that you've truly let go. You didn't move on with noise. You moved on with intention. And what she finally realizes is that your growth isn't about replacing her, that it's about outgrowing the version of yourself that tolerated her. In revenge. No callouts, no second chances, just a locked door and a life she can't enter. Because this time, your peace is not a performance, that it's protection. Number 7, your joy no longer needs an audience. Before, your entire mood was tied to her messages. When her texts came in, your spirits soared. A single reply from her could make your day feel brighter, full of promise and hope. But when the silence stretched on, it crushed you. Nights were restless, filled with worry and doubt, as if her absence was a storm cloud hanging over your thoughts. She was the unseen weather controlling your emotional forecast, and all the while, she never once reached out to steady you or take your hand. You were caught in a cycle of reaction, up and down, like a ship tossed by waves you couldn't navigate. Now, everything has shifted. You wake up with a smile that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval or attention. There's a calm satisfaction in your mornings because you know you're living a life built on your own terms. Something real and meaningful that gives you purpose beyond fleeting connections. Your nights bring peaceful rest, not anxiety or longing, because you've cultivated a happiness that isn't fragile or conditional. It's steady and true, flowing from within rather than from outside influences. When she looks at you now, she sees a man who isn't performing or playing a role to win approval. You don't need to post flashy updates to prove your worth, nor do you feel compelled to respond immediately to stay relevant. You've discovered something far deeper, joy in becoming the man you promised yourself you would be, grounded in authenticity and unshakable self-respect. Number 8, your absence is the answer. She believed you'd be waiting forever, that no matter what, you'd stay on standby for her return. Like a favorite song she could pause whenever she wanted, confident she could hit play again whenever boredom struck or loneliness crept in. She underestimated your strength, thinking your presence was permanent, that your patience had no limit. But now, when she glances back, she finds the music has faded completely. The rhythm she once controlled has stopped playing. There are no more texts lighting up her screen, no whispered, "I miss you," breaking the silence. The door she left isn't just closed, it's locked tight, with no key in sight. Because you didn't simply stop responding, you stopped hoping. You let go of the illusion that she would return, that things could rewind and pick up where they left off. Your silence isn't some awkward pause or a space waiting to be filled. It's the final word, the full stop that ends the story she thought would never end. And that's the hardest part for her. She'll never get to witness the man you became after her. The version of you who moved on, grew stronger, and found peace beyond her reach. Your life, your growth, your happiness continued on a path she no longer walks with you. In choosing yourself, you closed the chapter, leaving her only memories of the man who once waited, and never the man who finally stood up and walked away. You were never weak for loving her. The strength was always in your heart. But every time you accepted less than you deserved, you chipped away at your own worth. That's where the real damage happened, breaking under the weight of imbalance. Now you see it clearly, and once clarity hits, There's no turning back to old patterns or false hopes. This journey isn't about bitterness or blaming her. It's about choosing yourself, loving who you are more than the pain of the story that tried to define you. You don't need revenge, closure, or to prove anything to anyone. Your life, your growth, your calm, your purpose is the undeniable proof of your transformation. That if you're ready to stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even offer a bandage, type "I choose clarity" in the comments below. Because the man you were needed her. The man you're becoming needs only one thing: purpose. Like this video and subscribe to Stoic 24 if you're building your power in silence. Share this with a brother who needs to remember who he is. Your peace starts right now.